ask our young scout here to lead us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the village board meeting of July 22nd, 2013. Just a reminder that if there's an emergency, there are two exits in the rear and in the front. The rear exit is obviously closer. If you must go out to your vehicle, please in your vehicle. Please do not leave until so directed by emergency service personnel. Also, this is a non-smoking building, so if you must, please outside. Welcome the young man. What troop you with, sir?
99.
Very good. And your name?
Kyle.
Kyle? Welcome, Kyle. Who's clerk?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Just one approval tonight for the board meeting minutes of July 8, 2013.
Motion to accept is presented. Any additions, deletions, changes, additions? All in favor? Okay. Just a reminder, the next board meeting is not until the 26th. 26th. We do not have one at the beginning of the month, there's only one in the month of August. And adopt resolution, please read.
Adopt resolution approving the settlement of the tax certiorari proceeding brought by Ram Associates LLC for the premises known as 95 West Avenue in an amount of $13,500.
Motion to accept is presented. Motion. Second. Second. All in favor? Okay.
Adopt a resolution approving the settlement of tax certiorari proceedings brought by TIFF Real Property Inc. for the premises known as 1 Eagle Avenue in an amount of $18,500.
Motion to accept is presented. Motion. Second. Second. All in favor? So carried.
Okay, bills for the period total $447,915.67. Top 5: New York State Employee Health $109,193.30 for insurance premium. Besso Life $36,957.67 for the LoSAP payment. LIPA $28,830.12 for electric. Eastern Resource $18,019.11 from Anto, and David Mims $13,186 for tax redemption. Total of the top 5 bills, $204,001.06.
Motion to accept is presented. Motion. Second. Second. Any questions, additions, deletions? All in favor? Carried.
Okay. Public hearings tonight. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing be held on Monday, July 22nd, 6 p.m. Municipal Building, 14 Baker Street, Patchogue, New York, by the Village Board of the Incorporated Village of Patchogue to amend Section 415-6 of Article 2, Chapter 415 of the Village Code regarding stop intersections to add a 3-way stop at River Avenue and Price Street, a copy of which proposed local law is on file at the office of the Village Clerk. At said public hearing, anybody first interested will be heard.
Yes, we had some concerns registered by residents down at the on Price, that people blowing through that stop sign. Not blowing through a stop sign, they're coming straight down the river. It's become a dangerous situation. So, questions by the board. We all, I think, know what the intersection is. Anybody from here from the public from either Price or Sunset? Concerns from the board? I looked at it. I've been out.
Sensible proposal. There's a growing residential population down there, and it's just a lot of traffic that needs to be, I guess, slowed up a bit, and hopefully people will pay attention to this sign and just make it a safe thoroughfare. So I'm in favor of this location and this proposal.
Motion.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Second hearing tonight, notice is hereby given that a public hearing be held on Monday, July 22nd, 6 p.m., 14 Baker Street, Patchogue, New York, by the Village Board of the Incorporated Village of Patchogue to amend sections 415-22, 415-25, and 415-26 of Village Code to add additional parking meter zone by proposed local law, a copy of which is on file at the office of the village clerk. At said public hearing, and the person interested will be given the opportunity to be heard.
Okay, it's been an ongoing discussion for over a year now, I guess, part of the year, and the committee was chaired by Deputy Mayor Krieger, and I'm going to turn this portion of the meeting to him. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I think everybody in this room knows, for at least a year, if not longer, we have been discussing parking meters in the village of Patchogue. And this is based on issues in the village, like employee parking on Main Street all day, people using the best spaces, not for their customers, but for employees and business owners, and the influx of the successful businesses, the restaurants in town that are doing great, which we're happy about. Like a business like the Emporium that came in, bringing in 1,000 people a night here in the village, which is stressing our parking lots over there on the Church Street area and the west end of town. The success of various businesses in the village have created a need to increase our parking supply, possibly talk about tier parking, and possibly buying properties to create more surface parking, which costs a fairly significant amount of money, and if we want to do that in the future, we've got to pay for it some way. So having done the research with other communities on Long Island and in the country, a good way to do this is to have parking meters in the village. The amount of revenue that the village can generate could certainly fund additional parking spaces that we can build or buy property. And it's been discussed originally of just Main Street, when we looked at other areas and realized that parking lots also could be metered, and that would help turn over the parking, turn over the spaces. If you go into the village on any morning during the week before 9 o'clock, I was there this morning in the Oak Street parking lot, and a great number of parking spaces are already taken by 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, those aren't customers, those are employees, and those spaces will be taken up probably for 8 hours during the day. Now, I think it's pretty well accepted in the industry, in the retail industry, in the parking industry, that each parking space is worth $150,000 a year to the local economy. That's $150,000 a year. We have 2,000 spaces in the village. Do the math and you'll see. So if customers drive through the village and they can't find a parking space close to the place where they want to shop, you know, we found that people aren't walking anymore. They want to park close to where they're going to shop. But we have to change that mentality too, and have people realize that, you know, Patchogue's got a limited amount of parking space. We have a little over 2,000 spaces. We've got 2,100 spaces. They're not all right behind your store where you want to go. So what we need to do is we need to spread these shoppers out, spread the people who out into the other parking lots, make sure that the primary spots are taken by customers, not employees or store owners, and to make the enforcement a little more efficient, which the parking meters do. Currently, the village's enforcement is marking tires. And if you own a store on Main Street, you know full well that that's a very inefficient way to do it. The parking meters that we have in mind that are going to go in are all the highest, the newest technology. They're wireless. They are solar powered. You can pay by smartphone. You can pay by good old American cash. You can pay by debit cards, credit cards. They're the best machines out there on the market right now. They're used in a number of communities here on Long Island. We believe that this is the way to go for the downtown business district. And this money that we will be earning from the parking meters is not going into the pocket of the village government. It's going into a special fund to pay for additional parking, to make improvements to lighting, security cameras, resurfacing, restriping, landscaping, those kind of things, to make parking in the village more convenient and safer for people who are shopping here. Now, a vast majority of the people who shop in the village are not village residents. They come from outside the village, and we're happy to have them, and we want them to come to the village. But free parking is not free. Somebody's paying for it. And the people who are paying for it are the business owners in the village, the residents in the village who pay taxes. And if we can get some revenue out of those parking spaces to help with the cleanup and the improvements in the lots, I think it's a good direction to go in. And I'm going to be in full support of bringing these parking meters and putting them in the lots and on Main Street. I don't know what else I can add to that.
Jeff, do you want to outline the number of spaces and the areas?
We put together a parking committee, and a few of the members are here. If you're from the parking committee, if you would raise your hand. Lloyd Belmonte, David Kennedy, Art Garitano, another village resident, Jim Graham, Jim McPeak is on the committee, Brian Kern's on the committee, Trustee Keys is on the committee, and we've met a couple times, and we've come up with a plan that's being worked on as far as where these meters are going and the fees and the conditions. And we're proposing, of course, Main Street, side streets including South Ocean Avenue, Railroad Avenue, parking lots right now. We're considering Terry Street, Oak Street, Church Street, and I think those are the ones. Portions of. There'll be free parking in every parking lot. It's not every parking lot is going to have meters throughout the whole thing. So, for instance, Church Street, the first line of parking spaces are going to be metered. The back spaces are going to be free for hopefully employees and people who want free parking. Now, right in the core downtown business district, say around the Four Corners, there's probably close to about 1,800 parking spaces. Maybe 300 at the most will be metered in that area. These numbers are not written in stone yet. We're still working on that plan. And the fee is 25 cents per half hour. This is what we're proposing. And nighttime, you could do the same thing, or you can park all night for $5. So if somebody's going to come here to, for instance, the Emporium, and they want to stay, they come in at 7 o'clock and they're going to stay till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, they just put $5 in there to pay for it. You're going to be able to pay by your smartphone. So if you're in a restaurant or you're shopping and you know your meter's going to expire in 15 minutes, you can never have to leave the store and put another 25 cents in there if you're going to be another half hour, 50 cents if you're going to be an hour. These machines have been successful in villages on Long Island. A number of villages use meters. Port Jefferson has meters. Lindenhurst, Babylon, Rockville Center, Huntington, Great Neck, Manhasset, all these successful communities, business districts, Babylon, all these successful communities have parking meters. And I believe that this is the way that the village is going to move, and it's advantageous to bring them in. So we've done the research, we've spent a lot of time on this. I know a lot of people have spoken about tier parking. Tier parking is a very, that's yeah. As I mentioned before, the cost of tier parking is about $25,000 per space. So if we took a lot, say for instance the Church Street lot, and wanted to do a tier parking lot, We probably have, at this point, maybe could bring in about 250 spaces. Because when you build tier parking, you have to understand you have ramps, and you have poles, and you have, what do you call them? But where you go when you drive your car, whatever it's called. Entrances, exits, exactly. Thank you.
Where to get in there, where to get out.
Yeah, way to get in, way to get out, etc. Plus you have security issues there, that we have to have, security at night. Because as we know from past use of tier parking here in Patchogue, that was one of the issues. People didn't want to park up there because it wasn't secure. One of the other things that we're doing is we're going to have free parking for village residents. So if you have a resident sticker, you come into the parking lot, you park your car, and you don't have to put money in the meter. And how that's enforced is the meter officer in their car has a laptop or an iPad or some kind of mobile device. And when parking spaces become expired, a red light lights up on a grid. And it shows them, so if it's the Church Street lot and parking space number 75 is expired, it will show up on their iPad. So they can go directly to that car and put a violation on there without having to walk through the lot and check all the cars and do all those kind of things. So it's very, very efficient. And what they would do is they would go to that spot that's red, and if it has a village resident sticker, they would not issue a violation. So village residents will be parking free. We feel that, for their tax dollars, they pay for the parking lots, and they pay for the enforcement, they pay for everything else. So we decided to give the village residents.
Check except for Main Street and the lots for this one.
Except for Main Street, I'm sorry. Main Street is not free residential parking. Because we're afraid that people will park on Main Street. We want to get the cars off, the all-day cars off Main Street. There will also be areas for loading zones, which are going to be typical, your 15-minute in and out spaces. We'll have those scattered around various areas in the village. So those businesses like Clench or Geno's or other, what's that? The Olive Tree, and those where there's a lot of takeout business, rush in and out, excuse me, will have the advantage of having those 15-minute spaces that we will strictly enforce. We'll strictly enforce those. And with the parking meters, it'll give us the opportunity to put on more code enforcement, public safety officers at night who can write tickets and who can make sure that these restrictions are obeyed. Move the cars. The important thing here is to turn over cars. You want people parking on Main Street who are actually there shopping, not working. So that's pretty. Anything else to add there?
No, but any questions by the board?
Any questions?
In the back lots, not on the street, is there during the day a time limit, like a 2-hour limit?
There's 2-hour limits, and we're going to have some areas where you still can't park in certain places until 10 a.m.
Okay. And then if there's a time limit and someone is parking free, how will we know if they exceed that time limit?
That's something we're going to have to work out, figure that out.
Jack,
Yes.
still 80% of the parking is still going to be something like that?
Yeah, out of 2,000 plus spaces, I think it's 65, 35 or 64,
Okay.
40
So-
around there.
So approximately 60% of the parking is still going to
Approximately.
be.
As I said, the plan, the exact number of spaces in each lot hasn't been configured yet. It's still fluid. The committee's been together. We've gone. We basically started that part last week, and we're still working on it. We're meeting next Thursday. Next Thursday, I'm going to continue this to find the spaces that will need. How many spaces in each lot are going to be free? How many are going to be paid? How many are going to be handicapped? And one of the things we're doing is, as we move on here, we're going to be resurfacing Church Street lot, and restriping, and we're going to go through all our lots and do that. So we're gonna continue with the program of, we're getting quotes, we have quotes for Church Street already.
We do.
And is that not resurfacing it, repainting the
Yeah,
light?
restriping, and the numbering of the board.
Yeah, you know, black, it's not taking the whole black top off.
No, it's sealing, restriping,
Yeah.
and all the numbers.
Yeah. So we're gonna be immediately doing improvements to that lot. And we're gonna be reconfiguring in that lot and probably in the Perry Street lot the dumpsters, which take up a lot of space. Church Street dumpsters take what,
There's 8 or 9 dumpsters.
8 or 9 spaces?
8 or 9, yeah.
that are taken up by dumpsters. Oak Street lot, we got that pretty much under control, and there's no dumpsters taking up spaces.
I have it on control, but the one in the middle, the black one, is terrible. It opens up. I told them when they were building it wrong, because I went through it the first time. It cost me an additional $3,000 to make it correct. It's garbage. You should see the garbage on the parking lot. It's open all the time, and it's terrible. It's the first thing, it should have been white, number one, and that whole thing is terrible.
Joe, can we look into that and see what the issue there and why it's such disrepair?
When you swing those gates, those big gates, when the garbage man, and their guys are good, the garbage guys, I know them all, because I'm there early in the morning. When you swing those gates are gonna be on poles to carry it. It has to be on a 4-inch pole. A 2-inch pole doesn't carry the weight of the gate. So the gate goes open, it gets twisted, they go to close it, they can't close it, and they pile so much garbage high because they're not taking enough. They should be there more often, that the garbage falls out and it's on the parking lot, constantly.
Yeah, we'll look into that and see if we can rearrange your schedule.
If you look at my place, you look inside, it's clean, because they pick up the main one twice a week, the cardboard is once a week, and the one for the shoe store is, I think, once a week, the shoe store, but our garbage is clean.
Hey, David,
Prepared.
you just work with Joe on that in terms of that dumpsters back there?
Yeah, the garbage that's going in your dumpster, a lot of dry garbage, it's not a lot of restaurant refuse.
No, I have the Elks are there, when they have parties, they dump in there.
But it's
And
not.
the window, the coffee
it's
shop.
not- I understand.
The
It's
coffee
just
shop
not
dumps in
every
there.
day. I understand, but we'll work on it, just try to get it clean.
Yeah, we'll get it cleaned up.
Yeah, the coffee shop and the bank they dump in there.
Jack, one question I had, and it was a question I had at the outset of this, and that was the fact that the lots were created through business use district, and there was monies and properties that were given to the village to create these municipal lots. And are there any covenants or restrictions on us metering those lots in any sort of way? And is there any, do we have the?
I went through the minutes from 1954 to 62, the mayor
Yeah.
had looked at.
You read all the minutes of all the public hearings. There are no covenants that would restrict on any.
So on all the municipal lots that, you know, we've created, there's no restrictions on us or, you know,
Not that we can
converting
find
that
out.
into paid parking. So,
You made one statement a little wrong.
Okay.
Back when we started the parking lot thing, the people who owned the land against the parking lot, they paid for those parking lots, not the village residents.
Right.
The landlords and the landowner were assessed a certain value depending upon the space where they were, and as they went out, they got less, they paid less because they didn't have access to it.
Thanks.
And I think if you're gonna have to raise money, let's say eventually something, that you have to put a tier parking, that you do the same thing. You assess the people who are on the parking lot for the tier parking. Not the general public, but the citizens of Patchogue should not pay for that.
No.
The landlord should pay, well, in turn, what the landlord did then was whatever they were charged, they put it on your tax bill for this board. But
I think that's a lousy idea.
the initial $1.8 million to build those parking lots, 20 years was paid off. We could never touch that for $1.8 million, never.
You
What do you look at?
I'd like to just, Attorney Egan, just if you address that. Is there any covenant, do you know of any covenants or anything?
We looked, we didn't see any, there's questions about whether
And nobody's presented any documents to, anybody who was a property owner at the time has presented any documents?
We've had no objection.
Jack, just to repeat something actually that you said at the end of your comments, I know that, you know, the revenue source of the parking spaces is the most attractive. But additionally, I think as equally as important is that it's actually a parking management method as well. Like Jack said, you're actually going to open up spaces, you know, on Main Street. Rather than someone sitting there all day, maybe, you know, one every 8 or 10 spots is actually available for somebody to come in Main Street. You're not going to give up and go somewhere else to shop. This does create those open spaces, and it's a good way of actually managing the parking.
One follow-up question, please, is that if there's no covenants and restrictions on any municipal lots, why aren't we considering Lake Street lot as part of this? And have there been any considerations of designated spaces within that lot?
We've talked about that.
Right.
That is a possibility too, once it's complete.
So once it's complete, what would we need to do in order to include that within this document?
We just have to amend the local law, 2 meetings, and add it either to one of the existing zones. Zone A is Main Street, but Zone B is all the other lots. You can add it as a Zone B, or if you want to have any other kind of restrictions on that at different times, we can add that as a separate zone. So the law is drafted as infinitely expandable to whatever we might want to do.
And the laws are also going to be set up so that by resolution we can change, whether it be lower the price or.
Maybe a little more, yes.
Yeah, this is,
That's all right. One other thing which you mentioned, some of these key lots, there must be no parking at certain areas before 10 o'clock.
I did mention that, and yes.
I heard you mention that. Plus, to answer that, because I was out there with you this morning, Jack, and we had 30 cars parked already. I came back to the store a little bit after 10. There was only 8 spots open in that court. Now, I live on that court. The restaurants live on that court. The Elks Club lives on that court. So if you have a not before 10, other than the bank, then, and it's got to be enforced.
Yep. Well, as I told you this morning, as we talked about it this morning, enforcing the 10 a.m. rule is fairly simple. You drive into the parking lot at 9:30, and if there's a car parked in the 10 a.m. spot, there's a ticket. And believe me, the last thing that we want to do is give customers or employees tickets. It's not what we want to do. We want people to pay attention to the laws and to help the businesses in the village, help their own businesses to succeed.
In 1980, in the early 1980s, Sweetie Newlands was blowing at that time, you know. They had a side entrance. Jack Lucy and I talked about the parking, and he made his employees to park behind the church. Okay? And you could see him walking every day, because he knew that that corner piece there is key to him and key to me. So we got the village to enforce 10 o'clock, not before 10 o'clock. And it worked fine. And then, you know, things got rough and things, but that was on for about 5 or 6 years to allow Sweetie's customers to walk to the door, and my customers, any other retail store in Patchogue, Bob's and the rest of them.
I was a Sweetie employee at that time, early in the 70s when we had that too. And I was one of those guys at nighttime who would escort the women to the parking lot past your place and
Yeah.
go into
Yes,
Congregational Church.
they were escorted every night, we saw it.
Yeah.
I'll have to hire a couple of escorts.
That's another meeting.
I know my help's gonna squeal, and I don't give a damn, because they're making a living off of Main Street. They have to walk 60 feet, no big deal.
Young lady in the back. Any other comment by the board?
Yeah.
Come on, come on, please. Your name and address.
My name is Patchogue. I work at an establishment, it's a insurance company directly behind Gino's Pizza. And so we use that Church Street parking area. So I wanted some clarification. You said that the first row was going to have metered parking spaces?
Yes, which building do you work in?
It's in the back, do you know where like Library Lady is, and there's a little healthcare, it's called the Mini Mall?
Oh, the mini mall, yeah.
Yeah, we're right on the corner there.
The spaces that are on the extreme south side along the houses there,
Okay,
they're gonna be free spaces for employees.
so it would be just that one row?
We have to look at it, we have to relook at the lot and make sure there may be more, because we may have the ones that are sort of in that little area,
That little there?
that
Okay.
drive-in space. Yeah, that's,
So basically, the first 2 rows would be metered.
I think maybe the first row is gonna be metered.
Well, by road, you're talking.
Yeah.
There's
They had
2.
Two back to back,
Back to
yes,
back.
yes.
Yeah.
So, okay. And my question is, if they were going to be free, would they be free for 24 hours, or are they free to a certain period of time?
Well, those back spaces, we're gonna have to give extended hours because they are employee spaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and also, due to the Emporium there, they're bringing in a lot of RVs. Would those be part of the free?
No,
Okay.
those RVs should not be parked there, and we've addressed that issue whenever they come in.
Okay.
I was there one afternoon when they brought in a couple buses, and we waited there until they came out, and we threatened them with tickets, and we threatened them with, because they were taking 8 spaces, so they get a ticket for each space. They eventually moved, and they moved to another area in the village. We have the same issue with the theater, when they bring buses in there. You have to send them out and have them go to further out parking lots to go. So if you see those RVs parked in those parking lots taking up more than 1 space, you should call Village Hall and
Okay.
advise Village Hall for our guys to go down there and make sure they move.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
That's something that, to bring up, would we be able to bring up the vending machine here?
Okay. You recommend that we put a vending machine in Village Hall?
Absolutely. I think so.
What do you need? Candy or water or something?
He didn't get his dessert.
You want like a granola bar or something? That's what you have. You want me to get you one? Okay.
How come you didn't ask me to stand up and give me my name and address?
Because it wasn't public portion. We're using you as a consultant at that point.
Yeah, okay.
He's gonna send us a bill.
No, I got my cup of coffee this morning. I'm very happy.
That's right, after 9 years. Ms. Miller?
I just have a couple of questions.
Come up, just-
Okay. What is the fine for a violation?
Yeah, we haven't set the violation.
So what are they currently as?
25
$25.
So when the original estimate was made as to how much revenue it would bring into the village, was that part of the estimate?
Yes, it's part of the estimate, but we break it, it's usually, when it comes to parking violations, it comes out, funny thing is, about half and half. If you make $300,000 in parking meter or revenue, you get about $300,000 in violations. Yeah, and we're looking here, and Paul and I do the math constantly, we're looking that we could generate, just on meters alone, about $500,000 a year, as long as, everything goes.
So that's on the meters and then another $500,000
Could be.
in terms of violations? That's a high percentage, 50/50.
It's normal throughout the business.
Just to understand, the violations of that, those monies will end up going into the general fund, because they do support the old issues of some of the paving, the running the courts itself, the public safety officers. That's where their money comes from, is from that type of thing. The monies that we'll get from the meters will be specific to working in the parking lots themselves. And the violation money will go, like I said, public safety and so forth.
I mean, legally, we cannot put that violation money into a parking fund. It's got to go into the general fund.
But, meter money.
Yeah, the meter money goes specifically
or parking lots,
Into the parking lots.
and all that maintains it. I have another question. You can all laugh, I'm technologically challenged. You said somebody can put in another 25 cents with a smartphone.
Yes.
And how does the village get that 25
It's done
cents?
through, credit card payments.
So you can put 25 cents on a credit card?
Josephine, you could be sitting in the restaurant, running out of time,
That
dial
part
up the
I
website,
understand.
and you put
I
25
just
cents
don't
on
think
it.
you put 25 cents on
One-
it.
And if you're buying a bathing suit and you're running out of time, he'll be able to do it for you.
I'll pay the fine. I don't care.
Thank you.
A few, let me just, are there any other questions? Because I have a few more things I just want to add that I didn't add.
Listen to it 1 second, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think this may or may not help the young lady with her question, which she asked about the Church Street line and the parking. I believe the committee is considering that portion of the lot which is for your employees, that south end of it, that perhaps they would be needed from 6 o'clock on. Is that-
Yes, yes. Some of the spaces that are free during the day, at night, will be paid spots. Okay? That will happen in various areas around the village. So we can, okay, yes.
And we don't know who you are, so you gotta go up and
Yes.
Arthur Fusillo, 67 North Pine Lake Drive.
Good, you can sit down now. That's what you want to tell us you were here.
I'd just like to make a comment. I'm not here to discourage this plan, but I was very instrumental in getting the meters off Main Street. And I thought at that time, I experienced bad vibes when people were coming into Patchogue. And the board has used the word fines and this and that. My only request would be from the board, as this goes forward, that we use a moratorium for maybe 30 days or 45 with, thank you for visiting Patchogue, but we have now asked that we have meters if you would consider coming into town. That's the only request I would think that would be pleasant, because people would be shocked to come into our town and be penalized.
That is part of the plan.
Okay, thank you.
And to have, Christmas moratorium with it, you don't have to pay for parking Christmas. And part of the plan is to have the enforcement be, it's not gonna, if the guy looks there and it's a red dot lights up, we're gonna have a grace period. So, somebody's running to their car, we're not gonna have the fines. Also, any other questions before I continue on? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Vincent Canizio from Gino's Pizza. You mentioned about the free parking in the back gate. And then after 6 o'clock, it's not going to be free anymore?
6 o'clock, we're not sure what time, we're not sure
Okay.
the time.
What about all the employees that are on Main Street?
I believe that once they're parked there, I'm not sure, we may do an employee card for people, employee sticker.
Yeah, some
things like
had
that.
to pass because it's hard enough to get people to work anyway.
Yeah, we're working
Now,
on
they
that.
got to turn around and, pay for parking.
We're working with our parking consultant to see how we solve that problem.
It's one of the ones that's a big problem they have up in Port Jefferson, with that, with employee parking. So it's something we really need to kind of take a look
Yeah,
at.
that each business will have that, we'll be able to give somebody an official village employee sticker that they can only park in those designated as free spots, during the day. So if it does overlap into the time, but these are things we're working out with our consultant.
And at 10 a.m., before 10 a.m., is that for that also? Or?
No, that would be before 10 a.m. would probably be, probably in your lot, because there are very few other places that people, your employees can go close
Yeah, because
enough.
we're in there early in the morning.
Unlike the Church Street lot, which, people can go park at the Congregational Church and still have easy access into that. But, we would encourage that all employees park furthest away from businesses.
Okay, thank you.
You make good pizza. You know where it's done.
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah, the attorney, village attorney just mentioned to me that these spots are not only for employees. These are we encourage employees to park there. It's a concept to park further away from where their business is. So it's not going to say employee parking only. Yeah, there may be in the future sometime, who knows, that we might have an employee parking lot in the village of Patchogue, but this is not it. Reverend?
I was at an event at Reverend Wendy Walter, Congregational Church of Patchogue. Sorry for being a few minutes late. I was in an event in Billmore and a lot of traffic. And so I might have missed it. And I have been talking to the chamber, has been very cooperative in hearing my concerns. We're a church on Main Street, so we have a couple things I was thinking of. One is like for weddings or something like that, because lots of times we'll be waiting for the bride's limousine, and that takes years. And another thing is with a lot of church attendees, and we're not the only Main Street church technically, a lot of people are elderly and might need front of the church access because it's happening more and more, can't schlep from the parking lot behind the theater even because they're health compromised. And then thirdly, I wanted to know, and I don't need an answer now, I just wanted to voice my concern, and I trust that you guys will consider Sunday, if there's when I go to visit my daughter in Manhattan, I don't pay the meters on Sundays. And so that's a possibility because we've got Temple Bethel, which has a different issue because they're near Oak Street parking lot. You see where I'm going, right?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, Sunday will probably be a free day.
Okay, sorry.
As well as the holiday season.
Okay, I was here for that, I just wasn't listening. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, what was the other question? Oh, the access in the front, what do you do now? You put the
We have people who show up early, because it takes them a while to get in, and they park in the front of the church. And it is an issue for them, because some of them are on oxygen or whatever. Like, if we're with a rescheduling of a parade once in a while, and the village has been very good about letting us know, we move something to Sunday morning, you're gonna have to be out of here by la-di-da-di time. It's an issue where they'll have to leave early just to get back into their cars in order to make that curfew. And we understand that the parade needs to go on and we don't want to be caught there, so we don't have a problem with that, but it is a concern. I don't need to address this second, I just wanted to voice my concern for your consideration.
Thank you.
Is one question you could
There's heavy collection earlier that.
I knew there was
That is.
spaces going
Especially him in the corners.
You can't not, I mean, it's space.
So handicap spaces
Handicap
will be clean.
Everything will be gated. Yes.
Mr. Surge with Main Street Community Board. Part of the restructuring, the trash compactor system that you alluded to, is that part of this project now, or is that put off?
So Church Street, it's part of the Church Street project.
So
Yeah.
will we have to be relocating our dumpsters at that point, or what are we?
One of the things is right in the middle.
Yes, sir.
In the middle of Church Street, we have that area that is actually the right of way by the village. We're taking a look at accessing that right of way and putting the dumpsters to the middle and possibly getting a compactor for everybody to use it.
That'd be ideal. The way the church lot is pitched now, where the dumpsters are is almost a collection bowl there. So it gets enough overflow without everything we get from it.
How many dumpsters do we have?
There's like 6 or 7 dumpsters, but it takes up about 8 or 9 spaces.
12 slots.
So it's a lot of space, yeah.
Part of the revenue from, the revenue, the $500,000 revenue that you referred to, is that a net revenue for the village, or is that a split with the people that are putting in the system?
They get nothing out of
They
it.
get nothing out of 500,
Nothing.
okay? They get their initial,
Yes.
the original, one thing we talked about, an ongoing maintenance fee that we had to pay them.
Yeah.
You know, that happens sometimes when parking structures are built, where an outside company would manage it. They would take a fee from the payments.
Okay, no,
But this is not that. Well, everything that goes into the meter comes into the bill.
okay. At one point, there was talk about an ongoing maintenance program of some
Well,
sort.
we'll have a maintenance fee, a monthly
Yeah.
maintenance fee for the computerization.
Yeah.
But the machine goes down, you gotta pay for the
Yeah.
guy to come to fix it.
Yeah.
But it's like whether you buy The new grill or a new computer or a new anything?
They don't,
It's not variable, it's fixed.
Okay,
they don't get a piece of the action.
okay. And street sweep, cleaning the lot, will that also be part of the revenues, because the lot is just, especially Thursday mornings after this Wednesday.
It's really highway,
Is
that's
that highway?
already done,
So
so.
the Wednesday show that goes on in the morning, as of late, that parking lot is uninhabitable on Thursday mornings now.
Right, okay.
That's,
Okay.
You got any deposit bottles?
No, those things are gone, but it's deposit
Who's gonna call myself?
And thank you for the consideration that you made for the village residents, that was very nice. Good board, thank you.
anyone else? Just a few other things that I want to just bring up. We're going to be distributing, once the meters go live, we're going to be distributing to each business on Main Street and other businesses around the village, don't be on Main Street, a window cling that says, pay for your parking online, apply for app now, and it'll be a QR code. Is everybody familiar with the QR code? With your smartphone. Everybody else is shaking their head.
Kyle, I have no idea what it is.
Can you show me how to do something on myself? And what it will be is that it'll be, hopefully the businesses will have it on their front windows. So when a customer comes up to the store and they say, wow, I can do that, they take their smartphone, get the app, they can set up an account right there. And so when they return to the village of Patchogue, they don't even have to stop at a machine. They can do it while they're walking on the street.
Will it still take quarters?
It will still take quarters.
Okay. I know Ben and I are gonna use quarters.
So we're going to have that program, it's an education program. The village of Port Jefferson distributes these pamphlets here, trifolds, and they have a map of the parking area. It has instructions on how to use the parking meters, and it has all the fees and conditions of parking. We're going to be creating a similar folder to be distributed to all the businesses in the village and to have here at Village Hall. And so your customers who come in, if they're confused or if you just want to educate them a little bit, these will be available. Also, these will hopefully be available to people who work in the stores and business owners who are there. And they'll be able to have this again. And we're also going to have a website that will have similar information to this, that will offer to all the businesses in the village, where you can have a link on your own website that will show people where to park in the village, what the fees are, where the free parking is, where the paid parking is, and we'll probably also be selling advertising on there, so if anybody's interested. That's...
One last question.
Yes, sure.
I'm sure we've talked about it.
What's that?
The cost, the overall cost for lease payments,
Oh.
the signage, the restriping, and things like that.
We're looking at each, and right now, since the thing is fluid and we're adding meters as we go, we find out different lots that we're doing it. It's about $10,000 to $11,000 per meter, the cost. But we're going to be leasing that over a 5-year period. We see no reason to buy 25 meters that, you know how technology is. In 5 years, there'll be something that's far more superior than needed. It doesn't pay to own these things because nobody's going to buy it in a secondary market. So it's about $10,000 a meter. At first, we thought we were going to need 22 meters, but now since and this all includes the railroad station. We're going to move into this system. So it's about $10,000 a meter. The village is going to be doing the installation. Joe's, the highway department will install all the meters and do the signs and things like that. So as much as we can do in-house, we're going to do it in-house.
Thank you.
Dennis?
Dennis Smith, BID. Jack, you kind of answered the question that I was going to ask, and that was the signage at the point of the parking place. Because for so many years now, we've had free parking. You're going to have people who haven't been here in a while, or they might have been here last week, but they're not used to meters. So we're going to have adequate signing. I think you just said that as we go into the lot and in the metered areas itself.
Yeah, we'll have signs at the entrances to each lot that designate them as there's a free and metered lot, please follow directions. And when we launch this, we'll have our public safety officers in the lots on the first few days, for people to get used to it and to sort of, if somebody has an issue with the meter or doesn't know how to use it, we're going to have that. We're also planning to have a public meeting at the Patchogue Theater prior to the launch of the parking meters. So any businesses, residents can come down. We'll have pamphlets, we'll have a demonstration of the meters, just to give everybody a good education of how they work.
Is there a date available for that? Excuse me.
Our original launch date was September 3rd, but our parking meter committee has made some revisions and changes to the plan, as well they should, part of their job. And we're going to have to probably push that out a little bit into the fall more than September 3rd. We thought of September 3rd because it's it's a date that ends the summer, and now we're into the fall season. Any other questions?
I'd like to thank the committee, because it's a committee that's going to be ongoing, for the hard work, because this is a very fluid process. It will change. Things will change as we go through it. We'll add things, we'll delete things. We have a proposal into the Long Island Index, the Roush Foundation, who does the Long Island Index, to be part of a study that they're doing on where they're going to be hiring engineers and architects to look at parking programs, parking lots, for the possibility of Kia parking, coming up with the costs, and doing the engineering and doing some of the design work for it. So this committee will work with them if we're selected as one of those groups to do it. So, Mr. Garatano?
Well, I'm going to
Keep your Wednesday nights open.
keep them open.
Keep them open. But I do appreciate the time and the effort to work into it. Close, keep the record open.
Yeah.
No other comment by the board?
Any other comments by residents? Yes.
Dr. Queen, Copper Beach Village. Hello, everybody. Mr. Mayor. I just had a question, as I was thinking as we were sitting there. You guys know that we had trouble with our lots at the Copper Beach Village when the Emporium opened, and since we have limited parking and things. What would be able to help to deter people from wanting to park in our community for free in there if they didn't want to park in the metered parking? And are the meters going to go on South Ocean Avenue too, or just in the?
Some areas of South Ocean.
Down to Terry.
Down to Terry Street.
Mm-hmm.
It's a discussion for a different, not for this actual public hearing,
Okay.
but I don't think the meters in the Church Street lot are going to deter any Emporium people from parking. That's our feeling, is that those people are going to go in there and they're going to pay for the parking. I don't think it's going to change their patterns at all.
Because in the beginning, the village was very kind and they had the security there, and then the Emporium had them there, but they haven't been there in a long time.
It hasn't been on.
They haven't been on the weekends at all
Have
anymore.
cars been parking there?
Not really, not now, because I guess they got used to the fact that, but I just was concerned since this was people are gonna look for free places to park in.
Well, if that problem raises ugly head here, it's something that we'll address both of the Emporium and ourselves.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to close this hearing and keep it open for public comment for 15 days. What would that be? What's the date for 15 days?
That should do the day.
For written comment.
For written comment only.
Actually, it's August 6th, Tuesday, August 6th.
Tuesday,
Written comment.
written comment will be accepted up to Tuesday, August 6th.
Written comment will be accepted up to August 6th.
Right, and when do you have your answer?
Our next meeting is next week, which is August 2nd or August 1st.
I'll push it out a week, and then you'll have these times to be able to review it. If you push it.
There are a few things that we want
Okay.
we can get, because our last meeting was supposed to be spent on working on this,
I got you.
and then we can do that on our next meeting.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Just want to make sure this comment. What's that?
Yeah, we'll have 2 meetings.
Next
yeah.
Wednesday is July 30th.
That will be our.
It's Thursday,
Next Thursday, August 1st, is our next meeting.
Oh,
Okay, motion on the floor.
second.
All in favor? It's okay.
Excuse me, one quick question. As an email counts a written comment, is there, or it has to be submitted in writing to the
We'll
building?
take it as, yes, emails will be acceptable.
And they would go to Mr. Krieger's office then, is that correct?
Send it to my email address, or? It should go to the clerk. It should go to the clerk.
You go to the clerk? Thank you very much.
She'll forward those to me.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. You want to set up a separate account for parking meters? The Patchogue Village.org. Why don't we set up a special email address for it? Can we put it in, it'll be parking meters at Patchogue Village.org.
Parking meters at patchoguevillage.org. Yes.
I just want to, I don't think it'll be a conflict, but the Community Development Agency has their meeting next Thursday in the boardroom at 7 p.m.
In the
Yeah,
board.
we talked about that, we should be all right.
Okay, I just thought I'd,
I'll be going back and finish this one.
no, you can only be at one meeting, John. Okay?
Did you get that email address?
Partially, are you setting that up?
We'll be setting it up tomorrow.
So it's not, all right, when it's ready, email it to me, so you don't spam.
You might just, let's face it, Patty.
I'll have to make sure it's going to be set up that way. And then we'll put it on the website as a link too, so everybody knows.
Presentation.
Thank
Good night, Kyle.
Good night.
Thank you for coming, Kyle.
Thank you.
Mary Russo. You're up.
I don't think I need it, but Marion Russo, Director of the Community Development Agency, but I'm here on behalf of the Greater Patchogue Voluntary Organization Active in Disaster. I asked the village clerk to put us on the agenda today. The Greater Patchogue VOAD is an organization that's coming into formation. I have with me on a committee working on bringing this together, Betsy Marino, who's the chair of the CDA. She's also vice president on the IN. We have Tony Dean, who's on the Community Development Agency as well, and Linda Beckerman, who's executive director of Worldwide Voices and is a member of the ARB. We were encouraged to do this through the VOAD that's active now in Mastic Shirley. I mean, everybody understands what happened after Sandy. As soon as Sandy was hitting, the Long Island VOAD, which is a regional organization, began having conference calls that was connected to. Hey.
Sorry. Okay, I'll wait.
Two hats. They were bringing in their network along with the New York State VOAD, and then the New York State VOAD was connected to the national VOAD. And this is a way for communities to address the needs of their residents at the time of a disaster. And so we've been having 3 meetings so far, and I just wanted to bring the board up to date. We have some members, people that have been attending. So I'm going to read our mission so that you have it. Our mission, the Greater Patchogue VOAD, seeks to enhance citizen and community readiness through individual, organizational, faith-based, and business cooperation to support all hazard preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. We believe that the best time to train, prepare, and become acquainted with one another is prior to an actual disaster response. It is our belief that training is a priority of a viable VOAD. And at our last meeting, some of the things that came out were that residents that are still recovering from Sandy, and we do have residents, as you all know, who are still not in their homes, that are still seeking funding to do the repairs that they need to do. Just want information. People, there's a lack of clarity, there's misinformation out there. And through a network with both the Long Island VOAD and the Friends of Long Island, which is a network of the VOADs themselves, the local VOADs, we can hopefully get that information and be prepared to give that out, which we've been doing on a kind of a piecemeal basis. But the goal is to have an organization where everyone's networked, and we can share information, maybe have a location within the event that there's a disaster, people would know where to go to get information. So far, we've had attending Briarcliff College, Brookhaven Memorial Hospital, Pastor Jerry Bonifiglio from Church of Nazarene, Reverend Dwight Walter has been attending on behalf of the Congregational Church. We have the Great South Bay Lions Club, the Inn at Patchogue, Lutheran Church of Our Savior, Pastor Kevin O'Hara has been attending. We have Mercy Center Ministries. Bill Doyle from Senator Zeldin's office attended. We had a representative from Senator Gillibrand's. John Rocco attended on behalf of the Patchogue Ambulance Company. Chief Perry attended on behalf of the Patchogue Fire Department. Lauren Nichols from the Patchogue Library. I found out that Pomona Veterinary had a shelter open when Sandy hit for 48 hours for anyone who had their pets taken care of, had evacuated. So that's right there is a resource that's important, because we had residents that didn't want to go to a shelter because they couldn't leave their pets. So the Pilot Club, Rock City Full Gospel Church, Salvation Army, St. Joseph's College, Rob Calarco's office, the Women's Club, the YMCA, Project Hope has been attending, and then a number of residents. So I just wanted to let you know that this is, under formation. Obviously, we'll keep you advised, and anytime any trustees want to attend our meetings, please do so. And right now, we're working with Frank Pomada, who's a consultant with the Long Island Volunteer Center. He's going to help with the formation of the board. We're forming a nominating committee and seeking names of individuals who want to be on the executive board. And then we're going to continue working on building the VOAD so that we can work on preparedness. We can things like somebody brought up the other day. We were in the middle of a heat wave. What would happen if the electric went out? The village the first responders are prepared to deal with that, and the village deals with things so well on those issues that the village handles. And this is actually not just the village. It includes the town of Brookhaven. The areas, whoever wants to be involved will be included. We stay within the town of Brookhaven because that's how FEMA addresses it, and that's how New York State addresses response. But we aren't going, it's the greater Patchogue VOAD. And so I think that is any questions?
When is the next meeting?
The next meeting is August 5th at 4:30 at Briarcliff College, room 223.
Where does FEMA, the state, the federal, do they have representatives that support?
Yes, right now we're working with the FEMA Voluntary Agency Liaison. FEMA has VALs on the ground, and right now our VALs, Sean Augustine and Regina Bennett, are helping us with the formation. They're going to, at the next meeting, they're going to talk about how we form a VOAD, and they're going to give us the nuts and bolts of doing that. And they also help us because they work with all the other VOADs on Long Island, and we're about in place with the other VOADs. And I'm talking about the Jubilee, Mastic Shirley, Lindy Manpower. I'm sure you've seen in Newsday, Lindy Manpower, Friends of Freeport. These are all the groups that are helping coordinate the muckouts, the rebuilds, getting resources to their individuals, the food pantries, the soup kit, everything, providing meals. So they're advocates for their community. So yes, we're working with FEMA, and through our attendance at the long-term recovery meetings with the Long Island VOAD, we get to get connected with state resources and other things. I know there's some other.
Any questions? Can I take it, Mary, on the spot? Public.
Anybody want to ask me a question, or anybody have something to say? I don't, just, is that okay? Well, the mayor's running the meeting. I don't know if that's during public comment or.
Public comment or.
Yeah.
I guess more of a statement or request to the board members. I'm sorry, Jody Ledhagen, 14 DeWitt Avenue in the village. I would like to thank Marion for letting us know about being here this evening. That was a great help, because I did forget, and she mentioned it last week. I think this organization is going to be something, as a resident who has been wiped out twice now by the hurricanes, I didn't know where to go the first year. Thank goodness for Pete Sarich this year. He gave me the lowdown on where to start, what to do, you know, some advice on that, and that in itself was amazing. I really appreciated Mr. Sarich's help. But past that, I felt a little let down by the village, because other than him, I haven't discussed, nobody's brought information to us, nothing. So now that this organization, and I have to give a great applause to Project Hope, without them, we would have fell apart, I have to be honest with you. And we get together every week, the residents who are going through this, and I encourage everybody to come to our meetings, just to hear what's going on. It's amazing. This has not ended, and it's not going to end probably for at least another year for most of us. Between going through FEMA, SBA, and now I hear of Catholic Charities and the Red Cross, and it's just amazing the information that's out there. None of us knew. And I ask you guys, if, when this happens again, please help us out. I mean, and I think this organization is going to be something that's going to be amazing, I hope. Because I'm sure next year, the year after that, when this happens again, somebody's going to be exactly in my position and not know where to go. So I'm going to be proud to be part of this organization, and hopefully I'll be able to live in the village of Patchogue long enough to actually see this actually work. So please, if there's anything you can do to help, show up at the meetings. This is going to work, and I'd like to see you all there. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, adopt resolution appointing Village of Patchogue as lead agency of the River Avenue Sewer Project as required by secret. Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Adopt a resolution declaring River Avenue Sewer Project as an unlisted action and adopt a negative declaration as required by secret. Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Request approval authorizing the execution of the amended Carnegie Library agreement between the village and 1 West Main Street Apartments Investors LLC. Basically what that is our agreement to accept from basically Tritech, which is 1 West Main Street. $250,000 for payment of expenses for the movement of the library. That would pretty much cover all of our expenses. I don't want to clarify because I know that you said you were up for certain.
Yeah, no, there was you'll recall that the board, as a condition of the approval of the Tritech project in total, required that Tritech move the property and perform certain things to have the property back up to rehabilitation standards. But with a slab basement, there were topography issues, there was going to be studying utilities, there was going to be movement, and those things. We've accomplished all of that, as we've seen from last week, where the Carnegie Library is now moved to the new location. This is the estimate that Tritech had for the addition, that calculated what their additional contribution would be. The village's out-of-pocket sum as of right now is approximately $295,000. There were significant additional costs that were added on that were not included, and Tritech made very clear to us, and I think they were absolutely right. Additional costs because we were unprepared. We did not have a location, so there was a location issue. There was a storage issue. There was a construction and foundation issue, which required us to move the building twice. It required the mayor to find the spot with the county on the courthouse property with the cooperation of Legislator Marco and certainly County Executive Malone. There was the storage of the property then on the back corner of that property, and the leasing of the steel on which the building sat, at $2,000 a month. The additional move was, the second move was approximately $60,000, and again, that was in addition to, beyond what the original Tritech agreement was. So even just between the $60,000 in the move and the $20,000 in the steel, that's $90,000. Our approximate cost as of now is approximately $295,000.
Out of pocket, where we paid to date.
The library is in discussion with the village to pay some portion, make some contribution toward that, because what they wanted was they wanted the construction requested, and we're gonna pay for the addition of a full basement downstairs, which was architecturally how the building was originally built. This number was approved by the building inspector as well for the $250,000.
And we should be, after the agreements and the discussions we've had with the library, we should be able to be made whole when this is all done, because there are those additional expenses that were required to fulfill the library's needs of the basement, so.
And also, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, one other additional thing. Review of the agreement with TriTech required them to do certain things, such as stub in the utilities in the foundation. The library is going to be the ultimate end user, as this board agreed and authorized a transfer to the library. Requested from us not to do certain things, such as the stub in the utilities, the reconstruction of the one wall, because they're going to configure what their main entrance is going to be, because they're not really sure where it's going to be yet. So those are items they asked to be left alone. The question for the village's monetary liability is that the transfer, and the library is aware, is that they're going to transfer it from the village to them as is. So in whatever state the building is, that's what they're going to transfer. We're going to transfer it ultimately from the village to the library upon a contribution that will be arranged by the village, by the library, as to how much they'll pay to get that additional basement constructed.
You know, one of the things too, is when you go down and you look at it now, the job really isn't done, because what happens now is the steel is still underneath it. The concrete guys will come back, and they will now put, I think it's three layers of brick. 3 brick high will be put in place, and they actually put it within about a half inch of the building. And then they grout it out, and then they lower it one more time, and then they pull the steel out. So it's about 75 to 80% done. It's these 3 tiers of block that the masons must still put in place. Once those blocks are in place, the building will be set in place. The amazing part about it is, when I went over there the other night and they were finishing up, they were within 3/8 of an inch of onsite, and he took a pebble. You know, they use a GPS to get it within 3/8 of an inch, and they used a pebble. He puts it under the corner and he drops it. And where the pebble lands is where the corner of the building had to be, and that's how they squared it off. So they used a GPS to get it within 3/8 of an inch, and the pebble to put it up. So that they went from a method that's probably been used back to Roman times, put something in place, the GPS gets you almost there, the pebble got you where you want it to be. But it was just an amazing process to have it done. So there's still some things that have to get done with it. And we knew that going in. I think we'll probably have to pay one more month of steel money because the steel is still there. But for those of us who had the opportunity to kind of watch the move, watch the professionals and how they went through the process, and the fact Mennonites, they actually had dispensation from OSHA, and that's what the little kids were doing, what the little kids were able to do. The religious waiver. So, with that being said, any questions by the board? Motion to accept consent? Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Request approval to set a public hearing, the proposed subdivision of property located at 150 West Main Street. That is the courthouse building.
Yes, the village is in the process of arranging a contract with the county to complete the transaction. The county attorney felt it was easier for the village to do the subdivision process, so we're going to subdivide as a contract vendee, because we are not the owner of the building yet, the parcel that the courthouse sits on into 2 parcels. The courthouse parcel with the parking lot, and parcel 2, which will have the Carnegie Library located on. And then once that is accomplished by the board and split into 2 parcels, the County Legislator Rob Clark was then going to make a motion to the county to transfer the property, including the library's ours. The property the library is now located on, which then will actually become part of real property. Right now, it's an interesting legal question as to what it actually is. As personal property, not affixed to the ground. But then it will be, kind of the same as a suitcase. But then it will actually be affixed to the ground, will be part of real property, and then we can transfer the library.
You know, I think that, now, Legislator Calardo is really one of the prime movers of getting this property and making this go as quickly as it has. You know, we've done other things with the county over time that have just taken months of paperwork. So he worked with county executives along, and we all were at, and it's been pretty seamless to get it done. So thanks to Legislator Clark for his hard work and county executives for his support of the community. Motion to set this public hearing, when's the date?
August
26th?
26th.
August 26th. That, enough time to get the check, get put through. Second?
Second.
In favor? Aye. We had your report, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, come to Patchogue.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, trustees, Mrs. Steele, Attorney Egan, ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Smith with a very brief Business Improvement District report. Actually, it's two updates. I'm going to talk about the New York Main Street grant, the latest one that we have for 2012. There were 3 projects that were recently approved by the Grants Approval Committee. They are 66 through 74 East Main Street, which happens to be Rose Jewelers and Weiner Shoes. What we're going to do there is a whole new facade that's got that 1950s, 60s look. They have a great plan to change the whole facade, 2 new signs, and there's also office space upstairs that probably hasn't been occupied for years. It's gutted, and we're going to give them some funds to go up there and make it into an office again, and hopefully have occupancy there shortly thereafter. The second project is...
No, don't change.
You
can't,
that
iconic sign?
He told me he's gonna take those signs down.
No.
Would you like that sign?
Can't you get like refurbished?
The building only has a plan. I know David Ziegel has been looking to change that sign for like 3-4 years now.
I told him
We
tomorrow.
can, however, bequeath that to the village. We can put it with the 5 and dime sign, wherever that is.
Right.
That we took off of South Ocean Avenue. But the plan is to 2 new signs and a whole new storefront. It's really a sharp look though. It's got a lot of cachet. It looks good. I think it's going to be a nice improvement to that building front. And again, if we do that office space and we get that occupied, then you know that's another coup. That's more occupancy and more people on Main Street. The second project was 200 East Main Street, which happens to be Medi Health. It's down next to the little up on the right by the gym. They had done extensive work to their facade about 8-9 years ago. It looks good from the outside. However, it's very tired on the inside. It's a medical office, obviously, and we're going to give them some funds to refurbish their office and bring it up to speed with today. The last project was 46 East Main Street, which is Remembering Yesteryears. And basically, we're going to work on 3 sides of that building, because if you look at that front facade, it's worn. We're going to clean that up. We're going to repoint it. We're going to go to the side, fix the corners, fix some of the eaves up on the top. We're going to go to the back of the building and spruce that up as well. So when we get done with that project, we will look good on all 3 sides. And that's important because the Yesteryears not only faces East Main Street in the front, but you have that beautiful new walkway on the side, and you can also view that from the walkway, the back of that building from the walkway as you come up toward East Main Street. So thus far, those are the 3 projects that we have approved. It's only a small portion of the funds that we have to go. There are more applications out there. I hope to get them back shortly. I may remarket the grant in the very near future to try to get some more takers, and you know, we'll keep climbing forward. We'll keep trudging ahead. That's it for the grants. The only other update I wanted to make was the wayfinding sign program. I've spoken about that for a long time now. We had hoped to have that implemented in its entirety by Memorial Day. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for a few reasons. We didn't get it done by Memorial Day. We wanted to finish it up in June. We had the dance recitals at the theater. Wasn't a good time to go and do that, so we put it off until July. But in the interim, we took a hard look at the signs, and even though the signs looked good in the prototype that we had at street level, once you mounted them, it was very difficult to read some of those numbers. So we sent it back to Jerry Giosa, who was here earlier this evening. He developed a new prototype. We doubled the size of the numbers. We're gonna fix the signs that are on Main Street. The new signs are gonna come out with the new numbers. And hopefully within the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks tops, we will have that program implemented in its entirety. So we'll have all of the lots marked. We'll have the signs in the lots marked so you know what lot you're in. And we'll have the leader signs and feeder signs on the street pointing to the appropriate lots with numbers that you're able to read. That's the update for that. The only other thing I want to make mention of, it happened last month, and I know I've spoken about it, and I haven't been here since. We did have the BID seminar on June 19th, which was put on by the Suffolk County Community Development Agency. Patchogue was selected to be the host village. We had an ECIO, the mayor was there, opened up the seminar for us. It was really, really a very worthwhile seminar. It was nicely done by the county. We had participation from the Hamptons, from Lindenhurst, from the North Shore, Huntington, from pretty much throughout all of Suffolk County. And there was a lot of good give and take. And a lot of people were really interested in, hey, what are you doing in Patchogue? And if we wanted a BID, how do we get that started? So we started a lot of people thinking with that seminar. And I know that was part of what Carolyn Fay wanted to accomplish with it. And we certainly did that. Unless there's any questions for me, that's all I have.
Just a point of information, on Friday I met with Ken Adams. Ken Adams is one of Governor Cuomo's assistant commissioners for economic development. And he came down to look at the Tri-Tech project, but he also had taken a ride through the village. And we started talking about some of the things that the bid you have done with the facade. I'm very, very impressed with the progress that we've made and the proactiveness of the BID to take on those obligations. His comment to me was, he says, I work with a lot of BIDs, where all they do is either do cleanup or plantings, but not to be as aggressive as we have been, and you have been in particular, in this BID has, to do those things. And he said the other part of it that just surprises him, not surprises him, but he doesn't see too often, is that cooperation with the chamber and the BID and the village. And when I made mention that the BID was actually works out of this office, he said so many times, he says it's sort of separated out.
Because of alienation.
Yeah, so that, but very impressed, because we were standing in front of 31 West looking across the street at Doc Esposito's building, where Gino's is. And he was just, the fact of the coordination between everything, just how it works. So this should really be, the bid and the chamber should feel great about progress being made in the places, it is being noticed, places outside of 11772.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's always great to hear. I do appreciate it, as does the bid board. I think one of the things that really, really helps, and I said this when I gave the annual report to this board, is the cooperation within the village. The chamber, this village board, DPW, Department of Rec, the BID, Garden Club. We're all here for the same reason, and we all work together, and I think that's pretty much why it works as well as it does.
Thank you. On the Main Street grant, is there any streetscape money that's in that budget?
There is.
And how much is that?
It's
Do you have anything?
15,000.
It's 15,000, and is there any designated areas that you're thinking about, or where you're looking to use that money?
The target when we had written the grant, and I had done this, did this with Mary, and I think she had some CDA monies that she was going to match with it. We were looking to do something in the parking lot that is right across from Ryder, where the Carvel is, where the old 7-Eleven was. We were looking to soften that curb line with some kind of a pocket park, some kind of planting, or something there, so you didn't have that harsh look of the parking lot that you have now when you go on East Main Street or when you come up from Ryder and view that. So that was the plan. It can be changed if we have a different one or perhaps a better one.
One of the things that I was hopeful for, and it's been a long time coming, is to try and repair the sidewalk in front of Burlington Coat Factory. And we've been promised money in the past from different levels of government, and I think the only way that's ever going to get done is if we take the initiative and get it done ourselves. And if your board and your committee that looks to designate things to improve with that money, if the village would be considering partnering with the bid to get that whole area, I mean, it's so uneven, and it's just it's a twisted ankle waiting to happen. So
We could do a streetscape portion of that, meaning the plantings and anything else that might go into it. I'm not sure that actually replacing the sidewalk would be an eligible expense that we could undertake. Something I can't find out though.
Okay, appreciate it.
But I would think it would cost probably within that $8,000 to $10,000 range between the plantings and with a big space, if you put some benches in there and you did something in front of Burlington, to really kind of
Soften that street.
Soften
It's
that.
such a
Yeah.
wide sidewalk.
Oh, it is. That's what,
You
and the sidewalk is,
I mean, that's not only just the sidewalk, but bush planters or
You
bench.
last year I put in trees and I was waiting for the sidewalk to get done, but eventually I have to put the trees in. I mean, I would love for the bid to maybe, if we do that project, assist, because I have Joe Dean just carve squares out of concrete and it's a mess. You know, if we could put the little fencing around or put some plantings.
that we could do, but are there monies that exist to do something?
They're supposed, but the problem that you have is that the federal government, the funds that they have will not allow us to fix that sidewalk unless we do the acquisition of the, because our right of way, I think is 10 feet or 12 feet. 12 feet, and then what is it, Joe, another 3 or 4 feet that goes to the building itself. That property there, we would have to actually acquire to become part of our property, because they will not
Because
do any
those are
work.
private properties, a portion of the side.
So it's more of a, it's just complicated by federal law, but I think what your point is, Jerry, is maybe we just encumber the money.
Right, and as you approach these business owners, that you solicit them, we have money available to improve your facade. If you solicit the same property owner, that, you make it clear to him that he has 6 feet of the sidewalk that needs to be repaired, and we're sharing the cost, maybe that's
I
something
have
that
spoken
we
to some of them already, and they are willing. I mean, I haven't really gotten it down with Burlington yet, but I got Lenz, Gordon Lenz said he'd be willing to partner up. Steve Curran from the gym said he'd be willing to partner up. So there are already entities there that would meet you, halfway for you to do that.
Could you pick up, if you can do, do streetscapes include lighting?
They can under certain circumstances, yes, like period lighting, stuff like that.
If we continue some of the period lighting, pick up a little bit of that cost.
Okay. One of the is, let me check on the eligibility of A, the cement work, B, the lighting. Anything else we could do with this as far as streetscapes, the plantings, any kind of a retaining wall and stuff like that, we could do with this. Let me get that together, and then I can also talk to Marion and see what, if anything, she might be able to provide.
I mean, the Ryder Avenue lot there at the top, it definitely needs some improvement, but I think the Burlington sidewalk, if we could designate that area as an improvement area, it just, it'll solve two things. It'll improve the area, but also make it a safer walkway. It's just so a degrading sidewalk that needs to be repaired, so we can designate that.
That's a fair point, It's something I can certainly look into.
Okay, good.
And then I'll report back and let you know how we have.
All right, great.
Check with Mary, because she's done work on that also.
Okay.
Well, so total legal requirements of the code, the property owners keep their sidewalks in repair. Maybe if Burlington is particularly involved with Trustee Green, we may want to consider having a clerk provide a notice that's required in the sidewalk construction.
I think we want to provide that in the context of the overall.
Like carrot and the stick, it
Right.
works both ways, right?
Exactly.
But so they know that there's a plan moving forward, not just here, exercise.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
David.
Yeah, money?
Kevin.
Thank you. Sorry,
First, I had a couple people even ask, what the Chamber's statement on the parking meters was, and our statement is that we're actively participating on the committee. We accept the need of parking meters. We feel it's necessary, and we're thankful that the village has been allowing us representation and hearing our voice. And we're hopeful, we're going to work out, from the Chamber's perspective, the biggest thing we have to work out is the employees, especially in the evening hours, where we're going to get the employees to park and how we're going to manage it. Our employees aren't, paying extra to be able to work in Patchogue. But I'm very confident it's going to be worked out. It's an excellent committee. Jack's done a phenomenal job in running that committee. And we just thank the village of just working and hearing our voice and keeping the comment period open. I've been collecting comments from our businesses daily via email, and I'll certainly present that to Jack to be part of the record as well. Of course, the next thing I want to talk about is Alive After 5. We got round 2 coming up, but I certainly don't want to stop talking about round 1 because it was a huge success. Thanks to the village and our public safety personnel and the police on down. That was the right call. Moving into Thursday, I think really you could argue saved Alive After 5 because it really kind of was much more the family-oriented atmosphere that we really wanted to see and always wanted it to be. And working with the village, we're very excited about this week's Alive After 5 as well. Hopefully the weather will continue to hold out for us and it'll be as successful. As far as I know, there was no Alive After 5 issues or problems that we're aware of. If anybody certainly is aware of something, please let us know. We want to address that. But we were very thankful and that worked out so well. We're also thankful to the village too. The next night, our family fun night, did get rained out. And unfortunately, there was no rain date set, as we should have done previous. But we talked to the village. We were still hopeful to get the event going. So this Friday, July 26th, from 6 to 8 will be Family Fun Night. It's a great event where we're going to have a petting zoo, some real race cars will be on display, there's kids for the games, music, and it's just a real fun night for the kids as well. And following that, of course, will be our next sidewalk sales, the first week of August. That takes in account for Oldies Night, where we get all the old-fashioned and old-style cars on up and down Main Street as well. The Chamber was very happy to be part of Great South Bay Music Festival this weekend. We did have a booth there. We got really a great positive vibe about just people loving Patchogue. There were people from California that would come and see some of these bands that play, that were staying in the area and saying how wonderful an area that we live in. So it was great to hear all that. And I do want to commend, I'm sure it was the organizers in the village as well. I happened to be there on Saturday night when there was a threat of rain. And I just thought the way that was handled, how everybody was easily gotten off, and then they were still able to get everybody back on, was handled exceptionally. It was really done well, and I was glad to witness to see the village doing such a good job and keeping people safe, yet letting people still get back on there to finish the rest of the night.
David, just to that point, really thanks goes to Maria Henderson and Billy, the trustee Hilton, for the time and effort they put in. Now, of course, I put in hundreds of hours myself. No, but really, just let Maria know how much we appreciate Billy.
She'll appreciate that. She worked nonstop.
So,
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, no,
We went over that. In fact, that was very important to us. We've had, nationally, we had a couple stages collapse and things like that were addressed. As soon as we heard of lightning in the area, there was some fairly sophisticated GPS devices used. That was it. Shut down, everybody out. Last year, everybody ran into the beer tent.
Right.
So we were like, no. And,
I couldn't believe we had to break you out.
no, it's not lightning. But I was working with them.
Well, you stayed to secure the day.
You're right. So I appreciate that, Dave.
Yeah, thanks. Next, I also want to talk about the Chamber will be holding its next networking event. We've been very successful in holding these great social networking events this past year. Our next one, our summer one, is July 31st. It's at 6 to 8 at the Sunset Harbor Club. And apparently Sunset Harbor Club has an outdoor tiki deck. Patchogue is like the new Key West of North, with all the tiki decks around town. But yeah, Sunset Harbor has theirs. There'll be live music, hors d'oeuvres for free, a cash bar, and we invite everybody from the village board to network with our fellow business people, and hopefully will be a nice summer night. St. Liberata is the preparation for that is underway. It's going to be a great day on September the 29th, Saturday. And I know later we'll be talking about what could possibly be Patchogue's first annual pet parade, and I know that's on the agenda. We'll save more discussion until that officially gets approved. And that's it. If there's anybody else has any other questions for the chamber, I look forward to being at the next one.
Question, Dave.
Oh, sure.
Do you have any attendance estimate for live entertainment?
That's a good question. I originally gave in the advance the number 8,000, but public, professional, the PSA, who does our security, we have them bracelet all the kids that are usually between 10 and 16, because they have to be accompanied by adults. They gave out 6,000 bracelets that night. 6,000 bracelets were given out that night. So you figure if they're bringing their parents, you probably really more like 12,000 than 8,000, which was surprising to some of us, because it certainly didn't seem as jam-packed crowded as previous years, so I don't know what those numbers were. But the most important thing is everybody seemed to was comfortable. The places were packed without being too packed. The crowd was having fun without being too rowdy, and it was just a real positive, great night for everybody involved.
Thank you. Brad?
David, St. Liberata is on the 28th.
It's a Saturday, yes. I see it. I'm not looking at my calendar. I wrote down 29th, but I was guessing. John Ferrante, yes, a long-standing member of the community in the Patchogue Fire Department. John Ferrante is our Italian-American Man of the Year. All right, anybody else?
David, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief theater report. Gateway comes in for theater this week, on 24th of July, with Singing in the Rain. And I just want everybody to know that we've advised our code enforcement, public safety, they're going to be controlling the parking lots as they normally do.